96 Music.
I know that you recently also tweeted about Childish Gambino, and I wanted to ask about that and what you thought about This Is America, why it brought you out of a Twitter hiatus of about a year, I think.
This is America. Don't catch you slipping now. Don't catch you slipping now. Look what I'm whipping now.
I'm always impressed by excellence, you know, and I think that, I don't know if it's getting older or more cynical or what it might be, but it feels as though that happens less than it used to, in the world of music. It feels like the bar has kind of dropped a bit, or seems to be dropping over time, that there's less times when there's something that really blows you away. And I find it inspiring and humbling when that happens. And when I happened to see that video, you know, I was aware of him primarily through Atlanta, which I think is excellent, but I wasn't that familiar with Childish Gambino. I hadn't seen his other work. And I was just kind of taken aback by the song, the direction, the idea, the choreography, and the multiple layers of depth where one could be motivated to watch it again, and when you do, there's a whole different series of things I hadn't caught the first couple times, you know. And I appreciated it being provocative, and I appreciated seeing the discussion that was surrounding it. And it reminded me that, you know, music can have that power. It doesn't have to be confrontational, it doesn't have, but just seeing something that was done that on a multitude of levels was pretty humbling as an artist. I'm glad to see that there's people out there that still are trying things.
I felt the same way. I don't have anything else to add.
I think what was interesting to me about seeing your response to Donald Glover's work is that he's obviously very directly engaging with the American kind of socio-political landscape.
Yeah.
And I know that you've talked about the kind of existential unpleasantness that has surrounded, you know, the creation of your most recent work. And I wondered, is that something that you're engaging with? Is it something that you're reacting to? Is it both?
When I sit down to write, the only time that it has any validity is if it's being truthful. You know, and it was a lesson I learned way back with Pretty Hate Machine, which was really the first collection of songs that I finished. And they felt powerful because they weren't really written as songs. They were kind of a journal that I had the courage to see what would work against music without anyone thinking anyone else would hear it. And that's when I kind of realized I tapped into a power there, because it wasn't an act and it wasn't a facade. It felt true, for lack of a better word. And as the process continues and you write, as I started writing again, the challenge always is to kind of be as truthful with who I am at that time and be as honest with myself, not based on this creation or this myth I've created of myself or a character that I've become, or the expectation of what one might think. But try to just be honest, you know, and I found as I've gotten older that it's less about I hate myself and it's more about trying to make sense of the world. And, you know, from an American perspective, it's been difficult in the last few years because there's a raging culture war that we are a part of now, and we've gotten sucked into, and we're getting our left-leaning version of what I think is more truth-based and certainly more science and reality-based. But it is disheartening in a way to see for the first time in my awareness that a country that we care about feels like it's being ripped apart from the fabric, from decency and empathy. And it's not an easy to remedy problem for a number of reasons. And I think it's a result of social media and a connected world and essentially state-run television in the form of Fox News, stupidity in a lot of ways, tribalism, racism, a number of issues, all combining to be a place, particularly through the eyes of being a parent of young kids, it has affected us, you know, and nobody wants to hear the loudmouth artist or musician or actor, but you know, I do feel that you have a responsibility to speak out to some degree because it does impact some people. I'm certainly not going to change some people's minds, but I unashamedly feel the way I do about what's happening in America, and I feel ashamed to the rest of the world that we are behaving this way, or able to behave this way, and succumb to this, and that's it. And I think by not speaking out, I'm being dishonest to myself, and if that costs me some fans, that's fine.
I mean, I think as an Englishman in America, or really as anyone, we live, I mean, we're in the studio every day, we're talking. I mean, there is a layer, a kind of existential dread and a layer of consistent anxiety one lives with that you're not really aware of until it's there. You know, I wasn't aware that one could live in this constant state of there's something humming in the background and you wake up and what has happened?
Has the world ended?
Yeah.
Have we started a war? You know, things that, anyway.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. And I think that these records are born in part from that and do deal with that subject matter in whatever way people want to read into it. And I think going back to the This Is America thing, what's heartening about it is when you see someone make a statement like that, do it in a clever way, and have a genuine impact. We were doing Ken Burns's Vietnam, and there's a whole segment on that where you realize it's the artists who are leading the way in terms of, you know, they brought about change. I mean, not entirely on their own, but certainly, you know, they were the voices at the forefront. And I'm left wondering sometimes, you know, I understand people don't want to be the big mouth or whatever, but there's an argument for decency. There's an argument for just being kind and human. And I think that's where there's a void that people could speak into.
6 Music.